Okay, so you have started up the Seismic Terrain Explorer, and this is probably the first scene you will see because it's our default startup scene. If you're like most people, you'll have two reactions to this. The first is to look at it and go, wow, that is absolutely fantastic. The second is to look at it and go, what am I looking at? What is it? I get that a lot. What you are looking at is a seismic wavefield display. Think of it as a modernized wiggle trace display. Like a wiggle trace display, the peaks that you see here represent positive amplitudes, and the troughs, if I can zoom in here, represent negative amplitudes. So we have peaks and troughs just like we have on a wiggle trace display, and I'll show you the wiggle trace display to prove it. So here's the much more familiar wiggle trace display, and as you can see we have peaks and troughs, or peaks and valleys. So let's just take a look at this event here to see what it looks like in a wavefield display. So this is a continuous event that goes through a fault. We won't talk about that. That peak is this event here, and as you can see it's nice and continuous. So what you're looking at here really are seismic amplitudes, but in a more modernized format than we're used to seeing with wiggle traces. So what you are looking at here is a three-dimensional surface made up from seismic amplitudes. But Steve, you say, this can't be amplitude because there's no color. Well, there is color, but we don't use it for the same purposes. What you're referring to, of course, is this display, the venerable old variable density display. What's important here is to realize that when you look at this display, you are not actually looking at seismic amplitudes. You are looking at color. You are interpreting patterns of color. We use color as a proxy for seismic amplitudes. And when we introduced this display, it was a major step up from what we were using at the time, which is this, as you've seen before, the wiggle trace display. So we went from here to here in the late 70s and early 80s because we wanted to see amplitudes. But it was impossible at the time to do this. So we worked with proxies, and we have only worked with proxies ever since. But this is the real thing. This is what seismic amplitude actually looks like, and as I'll show you in another video, the amount of information in this display compared to this display is overwhelming. Switching now to a nonconformity, what you are looking at is really a true amplitude display. It is the penultimate step in our ability to perceive seismic amplitudes, and it is the final step in a sequence that began with wiggle trace displays, progressed to amplitude proxy displays, and now ends up with true amplitude displays. This is the real thing. I'm Dr. Stephen Lynch. Thank you for watching.